When was the last time an original story, not a reboot, not a sequel, took over the culture like this? Today on Real Talk, we're going to do a deep dive into why Ryan Coogler's Sinners was not just successful, but changed the game. Let's talk about it. Real Talk, coming right up. Real Talk.
Hey, I'm Gina Lou, and you're listening to Real Talk with the Director on Dollhouse Radio.
Hey, what's up? It's Logan Browning, and you're listening to Real Talk with the Director on Dollhouse Radio.
Real Talk.
Hi, this is Alana De La Garza, and you're listening to Real Talk with the Director on Dollhouse Radio.
Hi, I'm Diane Franklin from Better Off Dead and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. You're listening to Real Talk with the Director on Dollhouse Radio.
Hi, this is Monique Capri, and you are watching Real Talk with the Director on Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, I'm Stormy Maya, and you are listening to Real Talk with the Director on Dollhouse Radio.
It's Vicky Judy, Orange is the New Black, and I'm here with Real Talk.
Yo, what up? This is Jay Ellis, and you're watching Real Talk with the Director on Dollhouse Radio. Keep it locked.
Hi, I'm Trina Parks, and you're listening to Real Talk Radio with the Director. Hey, I'm Issa Rae, and you're watching Real Talk with the Director on Dollhouse Radio.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Nothing more, nothing less. What's going on? Welcome back to another edition of Real Talk with the Director and the Jedi Council. I'm the Director. We'll be with you for the next 60 minutes or so. Real Talk is brought to you each and every Monday by B2S Media. We broadcast live via the World Wide Web on, not on Blog Talk anymore, on YouTube.com/IE Network. And Twitter, and Facebook, and Instagram. So, it's been the talk, as you saw in my opening. It's been the talk of the town. It's lived up to the hype. Sinners has been the talk of the town. It's a film that's been, original film, and when's the last time we seen an original film, get this much traction, and it actually, is living up to the hype. So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna do a little deep dive on the success of this film, most definitely. And with that being said, we'll talk about that pretty much for most of the hour. I want to get people's opinions. I want to see what you guys thought of the film, if you saw it. Spoiler alert. If you have not seen Sinners yet, you may be spoiled. I'm not into just blatantly spoiling, but we do have conversations that need to be had. So I'm thinking, hopefully you've seen it. If not, go check it out. It's a great film. It's fun. It has some, we'll go over some of the points of it. Also, today, we'll briefly talk about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees are in. Cyndi Lauper, I think, is going in. Salt and Pepper. Congratulations to them. And, of course, Outkast, which is kind of ironic because back, the first annual Source Awards, one of the things that motivated Outkast to say the things that they said, they won Best New Artist, and they were a little upset because they were talking about how the presenters seemed surprised and disappointed that they won, and they just kind of announced them as Outkast. They didn't really have enthusiasm. I will give you one guess who those presenters were. They're the people that's going in the Hall of Fame with them, Salt and Pepper. So that's a little nugget there. That's the old school. That was the first annual Source Awards. I was watching it live, and I was like, dang, I like Outcast. They was just like Outcast. But anyway, congratulations to them. Amongst other people, we'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about some of the snubs. Once again, this it seems like they pulling, like what they just pulled on Shador Sanders, which he finally congratulations to him getting drafted. But Mariah, how many times Mariah Carey is gonna come up on this? Gonna come up on this bill and not get put in. I don't know. She keeps in couple of snubs I wanted to talk about, whether they're snubs or not. I'm a little surprised they didn't get in. Billy Idol is another one. I'm surprised Billy Idol did not get in the hall. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But anyhow, we'll go to our weekend recap. Then we'll get the Jedi Council in and get right to work. Weekend recap brought to you by BoxOfficeMojo.com for the weekend of April 25th to the 27th. Number 5 on the list is Until Dawn, made $8 million over the weekend. A Minecraft movie, number 4, 22.7. So Minecraft is just killing it. They're over $815 million. Number 3 was The Accountant 2, 24.5 million. Number 2, very interesting. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, has gone back in the theaters. I guess it's like an anniversary or something. That made $25.5 million over the weekend. And coming in at number 1 with another hot weekend, only a 6% drop from last week, 45.7 million. Sinners, the topic of the day. And now Sinners has pulled over 40 million internationally. They were on their international run with their marketing and press tour. They are now at a $163.2 million worldwide. That's 163 million in 10 days. Pretty good. That's a successful film, if I would say one. If I say one is. So big up to Ryan Coogler and the whole team there. But most definitely, we're gonna get into that. I got a few talking points we'll go over, and we'll go from there. Got my Jedi Council with me on deck. And here they are. Ralph, Kev, y'all in the building. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, sirs. Hello, sirs. Kind sirs.
Never underestimate the Force. Never underestimate the Force.
Yeah, that's really cool. The
especially the Force on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, the Revenge of the Sith. I guess that's cool though, because there's a lot of cats. I mean, obviously we all saw it in the theaters probably multiple times, but there's a lot of cats that became fans of Star Wars that did not get a chance to see that film in the theater. So I'm sure that's probably exciting for them. It's also exciting for us to maybe rewatch it. I didn't even know. I wasn't paying much attention. I didn't know it was doing a re-release in the theaters. I might have to go check that out. Yeah.
Did you see the premiere in at the El Capitan in LA? How Hayden Christensen and Samuel Jackson came out there, and the place went bananas.
I can imagine. Yeah, I'm also hearing that they're talking with Sam Jack of somehow reprising his role. I don't know why they wait so long, but we'll see how that works out.
We've been talking about that for years now.
Yeah,
I know. They should have already done that. But yeah, that's what's up. I did see one of the premieres with Hayden came out because they were talking to Rosario Dawson, and I guess she was there, and they were talking about stuff.
Oh, that was Star Wars Celebration over in Tokyo.
Oh, that was Celebration.
Yeah,
it was okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey man, let me tell you something. Oh, and plus we got May the 4th coming up too. Yeah. So it was perfect to put it back out because that might be
Next
my May.
Monday.
That might be
Next
my May the
Monday.
4th. Yeah. That might be my May the 4th movie. Go check that out. We should talk about Star Wars next since Monday is May the 4th. Um yeah, man, that's what's up. So cinema and film and uh I'm hearing some good it's in full flex right now. Post pandemic, everything people are taking their butts out to some theaters right now and watching films. Um I'm hearing some good stuff about Thunderbolts. I hear Thunderbolts is very good. That's also going to be at IMAX, so I will be there watching that. So I'm going to check Sinners out at my theater one more time before they take it out of that IMAX and put Thunderbolts. But they're alternating because the theater I go to only has one IMAX theater, so they play Sinners. They're going to be playing Sinners probably late, like the late shows, maybe like the last 3 shows, like or one last 2 shows, like I don't know, like an 8 o'clock or and then a 10 o'clock or something like that. And then all day ahead of that, they'll be showing Thunderbolts. So definitely gonna go out and check that. So, but the topic of the day is the success of the film Sinners. It is like I just reported from Box Office Mojo, and that's not even all of the numbers in yet. Definitely not Monday's numbers. That may not even include all of Sunday's numbers, but still, it may have Sundays, but 160, we'll say 163. It's at it's a good run. It's a good run. Only a 6% drop off from the opening weekend.
Yeah, that right there, that's unheard of. 6%. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
I can't remember.
there was another movie that did it, but I can't remember which movie it was.
I know
Because
it's just
word of
it's
mouth,
hard. It's
it picked
very
back
hard.
up.
Yeah, because the word
I've
of
heard
mouth.
of
Yeah,
I've heard of a couple of movies increasing the following week, because it went from like a small release to a wide release.
Wide
You
release, right,
know,
right.
I've heard of that, but I've never heard of
yeah.
a movie that came out at such a high number the first week and had such a small, like even 20% drop, maybe, but
Right.
6,
Yeah.
that's unheard of.
And I tell you, for this movie, word of mouth really did its thing. And I have to say, this is also a very good use of the press tour and a very
Mm-hmm.
good use of social media. Social media really helped. It did help this movie because a lot of people were posting, including myself. I got a couple of videos that I've put out there. Make sure y'all go check it out. I did a Sinners review. I did a non-spoiler review. I did kind of like a, just a video on what the possibilities, and I'll talk a little bit about it, the possibilities of this Sinnerverse, if you will, possible movies. Because see, Ryan Coogler has already said that he never intended on doing sequels, but the way this movie is set up, you don't necessarily they don't have to be sequels. They could be movies connected to this movie, not per se like it don't have to be called Sinners 2. You know what I'm saying? It could just be another separate movie that's falls under this umbrella, or like a spinoff from one of the characters, and they have several opportunities here, and I'm sure after the success of this one they're not going to let that slip away. And the funny thing is, Ryan Coogler's like, yeah, I always seem to be doing, the key word what he said in one of his interviews is, I'm always doing films that franchise films that someone else owns. Key phrase, someone else owns. So he was happy to say, I'm doing this because we all know why he's doing it. But so that's one thing I think is important to take away. The word of mouth, and word of mouth via the internet is still kind of word of mouth because people are saying it, so it's still word of mouth, right? So but the internet, just and social media in particular, really helps the word of mouth factor, because it's not just like, yo, I saw sinners, because nobody talks on the phone no more, hardly. People don't talk on the phone. They may text, whatever. Everyone, for the most part, people socialize through social media, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or any of those other ones. They will socialize on those apps before they pick up a phone and call somebody or go meet somebody and sit down and talk with them. That's just a way of life now, right? So, uh, social media is part of word of mouth, and that's
Yeah,
really helped the film.
I think the thing that Sinners has going for it, in addition to the word of mouth, it's the water cooler effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where when you're at your job, you say, "Yo, did you watch Sinners?" And y'all can see you and your people you work with
Yep.
sometimes. That same thing when The
Very good.
Sopranos
Yep.
came out, it was the water cooler effect.
Yeah.
When you
Almost
get
definitely.
something that's like that, when people like, "Yo, I gotta go see this," I've been hearing about it, then you see it. Now it's like now
Yeah.
it's ingrained. I gotta go check this thing out.
Right.
Because now you don't want to feel like you're being left out of the conversation.
Yeah.
If 10 people
Mhm.
talking about it, you ain't seen it, you feel like, well, damn, why ain't I seen it
Mhm.
yet? Let me check it
Well, I
out so at
haven't
least I
seen
can
it.
join in the conversation.
I've seen people who's made comments, and they were in, and shout out to the chat room, everybody that's in the chat room. I've seen people make comments in the chat rooms even the last time when we was talking about it, and they're like, yo, I didn't really have any I didn't really plan on seeing this film, but now that I hear so much about it, I gotta go see it. You know, um, and once, whether it's through social media or water cooler, like you said, and why does, I think, let's talk about why did it have that water cooler effect? Because it had memorable moments in the film, dialogue, memorable dialogue, and very memorable moments in the film that people were talking about. You got, and that also comes from the performances, right? Haley Steinfeld, she's been her, the talk around her has been
She
everyone,
grown
we
now.
literally, right, we
She
literally
grown now.
watched, exactly. We literally
She
watched her grow up on screen, right? So she went from playing, being a kid, playing a role, and always playing different types of roles, kiddie roles, if you will. Then young adult roles, but this is like her first real like adult role where it's like, yeah, I'm grown now. Boom. It's like when you see one of the Disney kids come out and they're just like, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they sang a song like this. But
Nah,
you know,
she had me
yeah.
when she told him point blank. She said, "You can rob banks, but you can't steal this pussy." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God!" I was like, "I'm done."
Yeah.
I was
Yo,
I
that
was
was,
done.
but this is what I'm saying about the memorable lines, and this is what drives the water cooler talk and the word of mouth. She said that line, and then and a little bit before that, where she says the line about, yeah, you stuck with your tongue in my coos. It hits me so hard. I thought you changed your mind. Like
I
she
know,
said,
and she was like,
and
"Boy,
it's like,
get the
yo,
fuck
she
out of
has
my."
some real punchlines, man.
But
It's just like,
when she was talking to homeboy, she said that sometimes she said, "Boy, you don't get the fuck out of my face." I was
yeah,
like, "Oh."
she has some great lines, man. But there was other great lines in the film that was memorable. Memorable moments is what drives the water cooler talk. They talking about Mary, which is her. There's something about Mary, right? They talk about Mary, uh, and just the whole never seeing her in that light before, and watching and talk about that. You talk about of course, one of the, if not the most memorable moment in the film with Miles Caton singing, Sammy singing in the juke, and that whole scene with, that might be the most talked about scene in the movie, from what I've been seeing, at least on social
I
media.
I saw it Friday, man, and I gotta admit, for that scene, had me in tears.
Wow.
To have the idea of the blues
Mm.
and to see the progression of what blues was going to become later
Yeah.
on,
Yep.
it was like, oh my god! And then the symbolism of the roof on fire, because that's black people
Yep.
saying, "Let this,
Yep.
let it burn." I
Yeah.
was like, wow.
Yeah.
I
That's
was like,
funny.
that part. If you would have just
Yep.
gave me that 5 minutes right there, that was enough for me to say, yeah,
It was worth it. Yeah.
it really was. It was just
Yeah.
the whole thing, and then seeing people break dancing, and then going from not only the music but the dances of the times as the music
Yep.
kept progressing. It was
Yeah.
just so much symbolism in that 5 minutes,
Yep.
man.
And when you look at it from the cultural standpoint, the spiritual standpoint, and then, of course, we're all filmmakers. I'm looking at it also from the technical standpoint. I'm like, yo, this was such a dope shot. You know what I mean? And I saw some of the actors, they haven't gotten too into it as much. I guess they didn't want to ruin it for the movie, but some of the actors did talk about, apparently, and I did watch some behind the scenes stuff. That scene was all shot in real time. Like, it wasn't like they added
It was
people
two. It was
later,
two.
like
It was two
Yeah,
one take.
2-1 takes that they
yeah,
that they were
handheld.
able to splice together to make it look like a oneer, but it wasn't a oneer. It was two oneers. But the fact that, what I'm really talking about is the fact that all of those moving parts are going at the same time. That's amazing to be able to pull that off. Because I can't remember her name, but the young lady that played Grace, the Asian woman with her fine self. um,
Hmm.
she she talked about how it was kind of difficult not to get involved with the other dance and like cultural dancers, because she's like, it's like I had to stay in my time frame. I had to stay into my what's the word I'm looking for? I had to stay in my
Her
time
era.
period.
She
My
got to
time
stay in her
period. Yeah.
era.
Yeah. She was like, so I'm dancing, we're dancing, but I have to stay in my time period doing the dances that we would have done in that time. She's like, but I'm seeing people over here to my left twerking and people over here to my right, hip hop. She's just like, it was tough to keep, because she's like, it felt like such a great time. You just wanted to just get into it and start dancing. She's like, I wanted to, try me twerking. So it
Yeah,
was cool.
just
All went at the
just
same
another,
time.
not for nothing, but that's a listen for y'all that ever saw the show Quantico. She was on Quantico.
Yeah.
That's where the sexiest girl, I think. Not
Mm.
well, she ain't the sexiest girl ever, but for a minute there, Priyanka Chopra on that show. There's a lot of moving
Oh,
pieces in
Quantico
that
has
show.
some bad.
Quantico.
Yeah. Quantico has some baddies on that show, man. But the other chick too, who was like the Muslim chick, she was a baddie too.
Hmm.
But yeah. So we talked about audience reactions to word of mouth. Also, about the importance of big screen spectacle. I think that also I'm telling you right now, I'm AMC Stubbs A-list member, and I could not go see the movie this weekend because it was full. I kept going to the app in the IMAX theater, and I call it full if those first couple of rows is open. To me, it's full. Everything else is taken. I'm not sitting in those first couple rows. So,
Nah.
especially not in no IMAX. So to me, it's full. And maybe a something here there, But yeah, so it's really people went out and they loved it. Oh, that's what I said. Someone was on in the chat room and she said she had no plans on seeing this movie until she saw Ryan Coogler explaining the different formats. That was a video that he did with Kodak. Kodak sponsored it, and he broke down the different formats of this film and how you could see it to help your experience seeing the film and what's the best way to see it. She said, I had no intentions on seeing this film until I saw that. She's like, it made me want to go see the film. So, I mean, big up to that whole squad, their whole marketing team. They did it like a old school big release, blockbuster release. They went everywhere, dude. And I mean, I saw them everywhere. They were on all the big shows. They were, from Good Morning America, The View, of course, Fallon and Kimmel, and they did them early. And then you got all these other shows that they did. They did Sherry, they did a whole bunch of people, right? And then you saw them doing social media. They did a whole press run, a digital press run, where a lot of social media like podcasts they were just sitting there with the center's background, and podcasts would just pop in and ask them questions. So they did a huge social media / digital run, right? So every one of these podcasters, they were posting all types of stuff about this film. Then then you got some of the scoopers, some of the big ones out there. Of course, New Rock Stars and the Real Rejects, and Cinepals, and like all of these different guys. Like big, like scoopers. What's her name? The annoying voice girl. What's her name, Kevin? The
Grace, isn't it
annoying
Grace
voice.
something?
Grace, yeah, the Grace, whatever.
Grace Randolph.
Grace Randolph, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. You see all of these people covering it, giving it so much good coverage, and I really, very rarely, only people. I'm gonna be honest with you. The only people that I saw that gave it anything close to a bad review was just really reaching. Let's be honest. Even if this film was not for you for whatever reason, you cannot say that this was a bad film. You know what I'm saying?
I saw some. I tried to be in the middle, and because when a movie is good, it's hard to play the middle and to watch different people's reactions and not be offended by it. There were some people that I was watching, and they were just talking about how like what Ralph was saying about the sequence, the timeline sequence of music, and it's like, oh, that really wasn't necessary. Why was it there? I'm like, you didn't get it. Even with Haley, nobody. There were interviews that I saw. They were talking about the movie, and they just like misunderstood Haley's character. They didn't understand that she was 1/8 black, and the one drop rule.
Well, a lot of people, and especially white people, a lot of white people, and even some black people that just the unaware, I don't care people, right? They don't know about the one drop rule, and they didn't know about passing, and stuff like that. They didn't know about that stuff, and this film spoke to a lot. It had a cultural relevance of this film was really big, and it was. I'm glad that a lot of people did catch it. What I am a little bit like I saw. I'm sorry, Ari Spears. I have to, shame on you. I mean, not shame on you, but yeah, shame on you. Now he didn't understand that scene that we just talked about with the cultural different thing. He's like, I don't know why I was in there. Like I didn't understand it. And then his partner, who is some white man, had to explain to him.
He should be ashamed. He should be ashamed of himself.
Yeah, a white man explained to him the cultural relevance of that scene, and he was just like, He still looked confused even after. I was just like, whoa. The one thing that brings me to my next talking point. Why sinners hit different? Storytelling, right? Storytelling that that respects the audience intelligence. I'm going to say that again. Storytelling that respects the audience's intelligence, right? No spoon feeding. We're not babies. We're not infants. You're not. I don't need you to spoon feed me every moment of the film, and that's where I give Ryan Coogler credit. He told a story that was clear and concise, but at the same time, he did not. He respected the audience or his audience intelligence for a lot of things, and especially with how he moved the story along, told the backstory of these characters, literally built a world in the first hour of the movie.
Yeah.
Without having to show us flashbacks and this and that. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that.
The only thing he did, he opened
thought
the
it was a
movie.
gangster movie at first.
Yeah, it felt like it felt like
that, and the only thing other thing he did was he opened in the future with what's his face at his father's church with the broken guitar.
yeah, he
Talking to
opened
his dad.
right. Right, exactly. He opened that, but I mean that he kind of he gave us exposition through dialogue, not through flashbacks and stuff like that and cutaways. He gave through conversation of the characters. So that's the best, that's how you really take control of the writing, because there's different ways he could have did it. He could have did it through flashbacks. He could have did it through a voiceover. He could have did it through, you see what I'm saying? Like all these different things he could have did, but that is it's still a spoon feeding type of way, right?
It's not even a spoon feeding kind of way. I'm gonna give you pushback on that, because what do I always say? Dialogue is the most important part of the film. It's just as important as the visual part of the film. If you're not paying attention to what they're saying via dialogue, you're literally missing out on the movie, and you're asking yourself questions that were answered in a dialogue. And I say this so many times, and you have people in these conversations that they're talking, and they're like,
But
"Well, I
see,
don't understand why."
right. But here's the problem with that. The problem meaning that other people have with it is because dialogue stretches the runtime of the movie, right? So people we're in a we're living in times where people don't have patience for these movies. They see a movie that's 2 hours or more, and they're getting turned off by it already. They didn't even see the movie yet, and dialogue sometimes will stretch the runtime. You can't be afraid of that.
But dialogue also sets up the imagination. Just kind of
It does, but what I mean by spoon feeding, Kevin, this is a fact. These people don't want to think, bro. They don't want to.
That's true.
They don't want to think, and they don't want to listen. They just want to see.
They just want to see a bomb go off. They want to see a bomb go off, and they want to see a naked boob. They don't want the storytelling to come. Yeah. Like, even though it's 2 hours, like, listen, he gave you guys an hour before he even introduced the horror element to it.
Yep.
Right. What I like what you just said. He paced out. He did, even though he knew it was coming. He didn't jump the gun. He was like, nah, because he could have brought it up. He could have brought it up when he first introduced the whole thing about spirits, and the holy, and he could have started bringing it up then. He could have gave you a quick glimpse. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna let it play itself out in real time and how it should go. And when it's time for you to get it, now you'll understand it.
Right. And a perfect example of that is I saw someone giving a review on it. He still gave the film like an 8, right? Or whatever. but he was talking about the visual elements of it. He was like, yeah, the first hour just dragged, and and he's like, and I see you opened up with Michael B. Jordan, playing himself and blah blah blah, and he's talking about the opening sequence where they're passing the cigarette back and forth to each other, and he's like, like that didn't need to be there. We know that Michael B. Jordan's playing two characters, and it's just like, bro, you missed the whole point of that. First of all, you're looking at it on the surface, and you keep saying the fact that you keep saying Michael B. Jordan tells me you're not into the story. He's not Michael B. Jordan. He's Stack and Smoke. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first thing by while he was talking. Second of all, he's talking about something. Oh, I just didn't look too good. What? It looked great. What are you talking about? The technology that they used for this was obviously top notch. The way they shot it and planned out the shots, the way they had to do it, it was dope. And what you're doing is now this is coming from a person who wrote a film with twins that I'm actually going to be shooting this week, right? Where I have one actor playing two characters, twins, identical twins, ironically. You have to set your shots up a certain way. And the normal rules, Ryan Coogler was able to break the rules a little bit or bend them, a little bit. Normally, you set the camera and you don't move it because you have to, keep that environment has to stay the same. Then there's that imaginary line that the actor cannot cross, right? So he broke and bent two rules. Number one, they definitely crossed the imaginary line, and the camera was moving.
Yep.
So it's like, wait a minute.
And also the backgrounds were different.
Yeah.
Even if the background, it wasn't like it was like just against a wall or something. No, you got it outside, you got it inside, you got it inside of a building, you got it. So he was changing everything all the time.
All the time. And it looked phenomenal. So that was one person, hey, and taking a shot at it. It's just like, okay, whatever. A lot of people. I saw this one guy. I couldn't really. I clicked off of him. Unfortunately he got my click, but I clicked off him and even finished what he was saying because he did talk good about Sinners at the top of his video, but he's like, Ryan Coogler, I wasn't expecting this to be so good because the two Black Panther movies was dog shit. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, goodbye. You lost me there. I was like, that's it. I left him a comment too. I said, you're welcome for the click, but guess what? I'm not listening to this video because you lost me at Black Panther was dog shit. What?
But that was the point. The whole point of that was to get conversation going, and to get what's that word? The E word you have?
So I said, so here's your engagement. Here's your click. Goodbye. Good luck. I wasn't even listening to the rest of it, but yeah. So you got stuff like that. People have their whatever. Everyone's gonna take their shots or whatever the case may be. But this film, from a storytelling standpoint, it respected the intelligence of the audience, in my opinion. Next point of it is also layered performances. Michael B. Jordan, obviously Miles Caton, Haley Stansfield, and everybody, the whole cast. They had layers to their characters. And you really you cared about the characters by the end of the film. So that's the thing. That's how you build a world. And he did it in an hour. You know what I'm saying? The first hour of the film, he had to make us care about these characters in some way, shape, or form, right? Because whether it's from witty dialogue or just performance wise, you got Sammy with the singing, and he's that character that you feel he's the young guy, like pretty much the youngest in there. So you already feel that the nurture gene kicks in. You're like, oh, little Sam. They even refer to him as little Sammy, preacher boy. So you had him, Delta Slim, great character. You cared about him because he was just one of those slick, witty dialogue guys. He had that, he bring that woman. Delroy Lindo is he's one of my favorite go-to actors. Like I don't really remember him in a role that I didn't like him in. You know what I mean?
I don't think I've ever seen him in a role. Even if you thought the role was garbage, he didn't. He did his best not to make it a
Yeah.
throwaway or just like
Yep.
you like. I can't ever say that about. There's very few people that I could legitimately say that about. Like that. That's not a starring person. It's like a background player because he is a background player. Nothing wrong with that one. But like him and RJ Brandauer got that ability that when the camera's on them, it don't matter who you stand next to. I'm taking all the shine. I'm taking all the glory for it. Not intentionally, just because that's just how he is. It's a damn shame he doesn't get used more.
Yeah, you know what? Because he takes the roles that he under. If you notice the roles that he takes, they're all pretty much dialogue heavy or dialogue necessary. I'll put it that way. And he's able to deliver in dialogue and facial expressions. He makes you feel like, I can't remember the name of the movie, but the one movie he was talking to the guy and he was Haitian, and and he was talking.
That's the Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, that yeah. And he was talking, and he made you feel like, you know what? I don't, let me back up off him a little bit because he might trick me or something. I don't know.
You gotta love him, man. I love him. Like I agree with Ralph. I don't remember any role that I didn't like him in, and like you said,
he's a
whether the
likable
role was
character.
great or not, he's a watchable character. Like for instance, I'll say this: I particularly overall, and I love Spike Lee, but overall, I was not, I kind of enjoyed Clockers. That wasn't one of my favorite films from Spike. However, he was in it, and
man, was he?
I loved his character. He made the film for me because Mekhi Phifer, shout out to him, but that was his first time ever acting really, and he just really didn't do that good. He didn't do it for me at all, and I was like, man, this guy's not a good actor, but. Spike gave him an opportunity, and now he became a good actor. You know what I mean? But that wasn't his best show in his first, in that movie. But Delroy Lindo, boy, did he do his thing?
That scene in the car where he was like, "Boy, if you ever say that to me, I will blow your brains over this Philippian leather."
That's the movie I was talking about.
Oh, you talking about that one?
That's the movie I was talking about. Yeah, where he commands the scene. He like just kind of like Ralph said. He when he steps in, it's like you're forced to take a step back. He's not stepping on your lines. He's not pushing you out of the scene or overpowering you. It's just his dialogue delivery. It's just like he's believable. That's the way to put it. He's such a believable human being. He's one of those people like Fat Joe. Who else? Fat Joe. There's somebody else. They're good storytellers. Like you could sit down and listen to them talk forever, and because they're just able to deliver and be like, even if they lying. Like my growing up, my house used to be a party house, and you could tell. When some of these dudes, when they get drunk, the stories, man, that they be telling and the embellishment on top of the stories. Like the story could be true, but the stuff that they add to it gives it color and makes you feel like, oh, dip. And all you hear is people laughing because they're able to deliver a good story.
Yeah. And Helena said she loved him since Romy Must Die. Great actor. Chelsea said, being a black actor, he has played his part in every movie he has been in. 100%.
Every last one.
He has. I agree. Thank you for the comment.
He was in this movie that I even though it's a good movie, it's not one you'll watch. It's called the Last Castle with Robert Redford. and Delroy Lindo in it. He plays a general. Right?
Yeah.
It is the scene when he's talking to James Gandolfini, and he's got this is James Gandolfini when he was still in Tony Soprano's remote, but he's basically punking him in the scene. Like I don't basically he was kind of like, I don't care who you are. If I got to hear about you one more time, you don't want me coming back.
It's kind of like Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington in Crimson Tide, like that trade off between them. But even though Denzel was able to like put pressure on Gene to make him act better, because even though even though he was supposed to be the commander of the ship, and Denzel's the XO, the second in command, he still made it seem like, yo, I could be captain. Don't play around with me. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I mean, Delroy Lindo did. I mean, other performances, I think a lot of them did really good, but I loved his character. Delta Slim, Jack O'Connell, man, he did his thing as that vampire. Now Ryan Coogler is a good. He's always had a knack for making multi-dimensional antagonists, villains, whatever you want to call them. It's funny because a lot of his villains, you can't always call them villains because they have these multi-dimensions to them, because there's always something about them that you understand.
These human moments that they deliver.
Moments, and even if they're not human, they have human moments. And it's like, hey, I kind of agree with him, or I kind of understand. I've seen a lot of people that said, listen, that vampire would have had me. It was like, yo, he talked a good game. Talk about, yo, you got these oppressors, and
they coming for you.
They coming for you. They go.
I'm just trying to save you, but I can save all of you.
Yeah, some people
I can save you all.
Yeah, you know what?
The only thing he left out though, that would have, like, he would have got a lot of people with how he was talking. But the only thing he left out was like, but I'm in control because we're a hive mind. So if you try to step out the box, that ain't happening, bro. So once you in.
The funny thing is, he was great at that, because yes, he's selling this on you, but not, leaving out the part that you are still kind of in slavery, servitude, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because you're a slave to the night. You're a slave to the, to the darkness. Like you said, you have the hive mind thing. So, something happens with him could actually affect you. Of course, you leave all that out. That's what good salesmen do.
Exactly.
So,
you leave out the fine print.
Yeah, right. But
that part, Ralph. Oh my God, that's it right there. The fine print.
Leave out the fine print.
Leave out the fine print. We don't need that.
Like he'll drop a jewel.
You don't need that part.
He'll drop a jewel that's in the fine print and then keep talking about the good stuff. And you forget about that he said, "Oh yeah, and the engine sucks." But you know what? Look at the dashboard.
But it looks great though. Yeah. Look at all of that
Look
stuff.
Look at his rich Corinthian leather and got power locks and power doors and power steering.
Exactly. So even with that being said, then you go into the fact that Ryan Coogler has done this before. He did it with Killmonger. He did it with Namor. He writes these antagonists that are in some way likable, and in some way you say, you know what, I kind of agree with what he says. You know what I'm saying? So
even Homeboy from Creed. I mean, even the guy from Creed, he was kind of like, yo, bro, you really only here because of the name of your father. You haven't earned this.
Yeah.
And you thought about it, you say, you're kind of right. You really shouldn't be here talking to me. You should have made this damn room with me.
Yeah.
It's kind of right.
So that's a great point with that. So the writing, these are all points that we're running down that really equals to why Sinners is so successful. And the importance of the success of the film, I keep pushing people, like I said at the top of my show in my opening message, when's the last time an original film that's not a remake, not a reboot, not a sequel, has had this type of impact on the culture because or even not even part of a franchise, because it's had a big impact because people are employing you, they're charging you to go out and watch this film. I've done it, I've said it plenty of times already. I'm like, go watch this film. It's a lot of reasons. I say that it's important as a filmmaker that people go out and watch this film because it's just going to bring that attention to the studios that is needed to show you that we as an audience, we crave uh original ideas, we crave original content. We will go watch it if it's done well,
Good.
if it's right, what I'm saying, if it's executed properly, we will go see the films,
See,
right?
this is what I gotta say, and this is I guess my slam on the film. It ain't against Ryan Coogler. This is to actually the company that released it, Warner Brothers. Warner
Oh God,
Brothers,
your buddies.
right? My buddy. I just gotta really know why did you let Ryan Coogler do this? Because he showed you what he could do, and he did the damn thing. So why are you messing up everybody else's projects with your nitpicking? Step out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Step out of the
Yeah.
way. The
Yeah.
director knows what he's doing, and if you, I'm sure you guys gave him notes. I'm sure you gave him notes on how some ideas. He either took it or he didn't take it, but
Yeah.
you pretty much got out of his way. He brought you a film
And he
on
made a
time
masterpiece.
and
Yep.
made almost I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but I would give it say a modern era masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be talking about Sinners.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this is my second gripe. I think the time of the year, so early in the year, I just hope it doesn't get forgotten
Mm-hmm.
come December, January when it's time for Oscar considerations. Because if this was
Right.
released in October, it wouldn't even be a question. It wouldn't even be a question.
That
Right.
would
The
be
best
a
movie.
re-release. To do that, especially if they were going for an Oscar run, it would be perfect to be a re-release around Christmas time or even Halloween. Um,
Especially Halloween.
Halloween would
It's
be even better. Yeah. No,
right.
I agree with you there. That's always an issue when it comes to Oscar consideration. And I want to put I put this up on the screen so people could see Helena what she said. And she says the thing about it made the movie for me is that it took it back to the 30s and showed how, although we had it rough during those times, we as black people came together and enjoyed each other.
Yeah.
That is important, and thank you for that comment.
yeah,
It's
think
really
Even
important to show those things. I mean,
I think
he did so much in this movie that, I mean, so much that we could talk about this for 4 hours, and the things that he did, and showed. I mean, the fact that, like I said, I'm not gonna keep getting on Ari Spears, but the fact that people who didn't understand that sequence, and there's some people that understood it that just don't want to accept it. It goes right into what I talked about at the top of the show with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Well, rock and roll and all of that stuff came from blues music, right? And
every last piece.
every
Every
so
last piece.
every last piece. I mean, Larry said last week when he jumped in, he said it real cool the way he put it. He was like, "Rock and roll is just blues with electric guitar."
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, pretty much. And
Yeah.
but he showed that all of those music that was all those genres of music that was connected, he showed where the foundation of it was. And the people who understood it, some of them, it was like a ton of bricks hitting them. They were like, well, didn't realize it. So then that's when I fast forward to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You got people complaining that people who are not per se rock and roll artists or um, heavy metal artists or anything like that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I tell people to debunk all of that. I say all you have to do is look at the inaugural class for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was mostly black people that went in the inaugural class because, you know, they don't want to accept or admit where rock and roll comes from. I mean, hell, Jerry Lee Lewis, big rock and roll star, right? Where the hell do you think Jerry Lee Lewis hung out? In juke joints. That's where he was at.
Where do you think he got his piano skills from?
He got it from the juke joints. He was taking the songs right out of the juke joints. I love if anyone's never seen Great Balls of Fire, the biopic about Jerry Lee Lewis, it's a good film. And it shows right in that film how he's in the juke joint, he's playing with the blacks and he's doing all this stuff. And he's literally taking, one of his biggest songs, Whole Lot of Shaking Going On. He took that directly from a juke joint.
Yeah.
And just sped it up a little bit and put a little rock and roll feel to it. And next thing you know, Whole Lot of Shaking Going On is a hit.
But you know what's funny when you said that? If you remember that movie, when he first did it for the first time, he was playing his own style of music and nobody was vibing to him.
Yeah.
Then he said, "Let's play that shaking song." Yeah. He said, "What they gonna?" He said, "Yeah." And once that came on, his whole mentality. So it seems like this. That means you didn't have no
That's
style.
Right. He said, "Let's do that shaking song."
From the brothers.
Yeah. Let's do that shaking song. And they downed them. You can't do that jig music.
They gonna lynch us.
You do that. Nah, let's try it. He started doing, and then everybody just started dancing. Shows you right there. Yeah. Helena says Elvis as well. Of course. Elvis stole so much and had so many people, but like I said, not to harp on that. I want to, cover a few more points before we wrap up the show. But, so what this success means for young black filmmakers was a question someone asked me. I said, well, it may mean something, it may mean nothing, but the point is, I think what it means to filmmakers, period, is especially filmmakers on the come up, or filmmakers not even just on the come up, they have original ideas. It might give them the courage to really approach some of these studios. When you get a studio that's one thing Warner Brothers did do right is they were a studio that took a swing, right? They took a swing. They said let's try it. Let's see what happens. He's already he's a proven director. Let's see what happens. Let's give him the control he wants. And I do want to touch on the part that although this is a great deal that, a lot of people, it's just unheard of, it's unprecedented. It is a big deal, but Ryan Coogler himself kind of pushed back on it because he kind of didn't like the way everybody is making such a big deal. He said, this is not the first time a deal like this has been done. He was like, there's other people that's had to say this. Nothing about my deal is new. He was like, it's just the fact that,
I like the way he covered it up. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off, but I like the way when he said that, I like the way he covered it up when he said, I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's the key point to say, like, it's because I'm black that y'all making a big deal out of it.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He's like, I kind of have my guesses.
I don't think that
he was like, but he didn't want to say, because she said, well, what do you think? Why do you think? He said, you know what? I'd rather not say.
I don't think it's affected black. I think that it's been such a long time since you heard a director got that kind of a deal. I mean, as I say, myself, the only other person I knew that had it was Lucas. But Star Wars was his thing.
More people did have it though. Nolan has had it. Even Tyler Perry has had those type of deals where you get, especially when it comes to Final Cut and stuff like that. Tyler Perry has gotten those type of deals. He's negotiated those type of deals, and it's different. Maybe not every point that he has, because he has the Final Cut, the first box office, first dollar box office, and the thing comes back to him. But Tyler Perry has definitely had the rights where the rights will revert back to him in a certain amount of time. final cut decisions, creative control over what he makes. So
But see, but
he's
see
done
that
it.
that but see
Nolan has
that's a little
done
bit
it
different.
of other people.
But that's a little bit different because the Tyler Perry stuff, they're his things. That they're he's turning his play. So and plus he's putting up all the money to make the stuff. So yeah,
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
this case, Ryan Coogler is not putting up the money for Sinners. So
Mhm.
to hear that he has all these
Mhm.
quote unquote gifts for something that
Yeah.
you didn't invest your own money in.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only other person I knew that had it was Lucas. And even when you said Nolan, I mean, really speaking, I don't think Nolan really had that because why aren't the guys still with Warner Brothers? If he had all that power, he would still be on Warner Brothers. But why did he leave? You
Well, he
know,
got
they
mad.
were
He left because of what they did with the streaming.
right.
That's
That's what I'm
really
saying. But if
what
he
messed him up.
that's
Made
really what he
him
left. But
mad.
I'm saying if he had all that kind of juice, he would have stayed because he said, "Wait a minute, even though I got they want to do this one thing, but I got 200 other benefits. It might be in my best interest to stay here, you
Yeah.
know, because all my
I guess
films."
what he really wanted to put out there was like he knows why people are making a big deal about it more so than just the deal itself. Because let's be honest, if a Christopher Nolan or anyone of that caliber that's white would get this deal, I don't think anybody'd be jumping out of the window over it. They'd be like, "Oh, it's
No,
Nolan." You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So,
they would say, "Oh, he deserves it." Nolan,
right?
Spielberg, you know, Scorsese, they deserve it based on their
Yeah.
resume of 20, 30
Mhm.
years. Yeah, they deserve it. I'm still like a
Mhm.
new cat on the block, you know, and I got
But
this deal already.
but what he said was true as well. He's grossed over $2 billion in films, and he's not even 40 yet. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? He's already grossed over $2 billion in films that he's made. Before he even hit the age of 40. So that's a nice resume in itself. And he doesn't have as many films as some of these other directors, but that don't
He
matter.
only got
All
five.
of his films, yeah, all his films were successful. Every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were all successful. And like we said, he had one of the most successful films and phenomenon type of film. And like I said, he's grossed over $2 billion, well over $2 billion for all the films that he's
Mhm.
directed and wrote. So Warner Brothers took a swing, and it's paying off. It's gonna pay off. It is paying off. So maybe someone else might look at it and say, "Oh, let's take a swing on something else that's original." Long as it's put together well, you know, executed properly, the people will go see it. You know, and they said, what did they say? When you choose Michael B. Jordan and Fruitvale Station, I knew he was going to be an amazing director. Yeah, I mean, and Michael B. is his Denzel, right? He's that guy that he's gonna work with all the time. They trust each other. This film, he brought back a lot of people. When what number one, his original, like his immediate team is always people that he trusts. He works with his family, he works with his wife, works with his brother. You got Ludwig, who he went to college with, who just from him working with him. Look at all of the work that Ludwig has been getting. I mean, he did Black Panther, he did
Mhm.
everything. You know what I'm saying? He After he got into the Disney world and did Black Panther and all that stuff, Disney was just tugging on him every which way, doing the Mandalorian, he doing that, you know what I'm saying? Like they're like, oh yeah. So um he's definitely working with people that he trusts. And before we get to wrap up the show, I do want to take another look at Michael B. Jordan. This was definitely a nice, step up for him. He said it was challenging. Of course, it would be. You really did catch the different nuances between the two characters, Smoke and Stack. And There was a lot of things. I got people that I've talked to that are twins, right? And they're like, yeah, man, like there's a lot of things that happen in this film that's very twin. 'Cause he had twins as consultants on his film, right? So he's like, so they definitely hit the nuances of the twins, even down to the fact where I'm sorry, Smoke pulling off the necklace that protected him, that was given to him by Annie, knowing that at this point I'm ready, like Biggie, I'm ready to die, right? Because, and I'm just gonna go out doing what I'm doing. But he was ready because number one, everything that happened. Number two, he was without his twin, right? The twin that he spent his life trying to protect, right? So it was that part was very, Ryan Coogler was able to put a nice touching spin on it at the end, but also at the same time, the fact that these cats, another thing that only a few people that I've seen brought out the significance of the fact that the KKK was getting ready to come back to pretty
Get
much
him.
kill everybody and take that land back. People don't understand that's a real thing that went on back then. They would sell property to black people, let them build it up. They didn't always come back the next day, but let them build it up, make it profitable, and then they come back and take it from them. Whether they had to kill them or just run them off the land and make them sign it back over to them after they sold it to them. So not only do I have your money, now I'm taking the land back. That's a real thing, people. That is not Ryan wrote that in his script and put it around his story, but that is a real thing that happened. So big up to him for bringing that up. And that was ended up being a twist in the film that they didn't promote in the trailers and so forth. That's like a twist because, and it was cool that it came from the antagonist telling them, well, I'm just trying to save y'all because, I bit the two clan members and I got all their memories. They was coming here to wipe y'all out. Everybody in here. You know what I'm saying? The fact that, once again, a good salesman, right? He's letting them know. He's giving them all of the, almost making them think, hey, I'm on your side. I'm giving you a heads up. And honestly, when you think about it, what if the vampires, and Ryan Coogler even said that, what if the vampires would have never shown up? People still would have died because the clan would have came back and they would have killed people. Even if Smoke and Stack was able to fight them off, innocent people would have got caught in the crossfire, right?
And it was a good choice of Brian to leave the KKK element out, even though it made people mad. It made them turn towards the race card. They're like, "Oh, why did he have to show that in the end?" Well, because that's what would have happened. It's just
that's where it needed to be, and it needed to be there.
Yeah. He did it. He did it perfectly. He did it perfectly with that. So there's not more I can say about this film that everyone else hasn't said already. It's just the way this film the way it was played out was great. I didn't have any complaints really. And then we'll talk about the post credit scene. So what I said was the way Ryan Coogler wrote this, and I have a video out there, you guys could check it out. It talks about the possibilities of the film. Now he could just leave it as a one-off and that'll be that. I just kind of let my imagination roll a little bit for fun and say, the possibilities of future films that he can make without them being per se direct sequels to the film. So it's not Sinners 2, Sinners 3, Sinners 4, but more so like just tackling the different. So we have stories. We have obviously Remit. There's a whole story there with him. The whole Irish thing. And truth be told, I'm a big vampire person. You know, there was a vampire like Dracula type of figure way back in that was an Irish character. Irish. I forgot what they call them, but it's like their Dracula, right? Um, the Irish culture and vampirism and vampires are very heavily tied together, whether people know that or not. Now you know it. Um, it'd be great to do a film about, because Remick seems like he's lived for a while. If you go back, and that film should take place in Ireland, in my opinion. With of course, with him coming to America or what have you later on in the film. So that's another story. You have the Choctaw tribes, the vampire hunters that was hunting him in the beginning of the film. There's a story there. You also have Stat and Mary. The decades that they went from the 30s to the 90s. That was wild. Right? So you could tell that story. Right? You can there's a lot of people that's talked about the Sammy. Somebody was talking about, because his character was based on the kind of, not based on, but inspired by Ray Johnson, the blues player that, according to the legend, sold his soul and able to play well on his guitar and have a good career as a blues artist at the crossroads. So, and if you watch the very, very last after credit scene where Sammy is singing "This Little Light of Mine," when he's done, he stops and he kind of looks up. He has this weird look where he's kind of looking almost if someone walked in and startled him. He's kind of looking at the camera, and that's how it ends. So some people are saying, oh, was this the opportunity that he got to have his deal with the devil? Because this is before, it essentially is before the events, because I don't think he had the scars on his face when he was singing it. So that's just speculation. But I had something I really dug into my imagination bag. And like I said, you got to go watch the video. I don't want to spoil it all for everybody. But I was like, Sammy went on and he went through life knowing that vampires exist. What did he do about it? And I just for fun, I was like, what if Sammy became a vampire hunter?
No.
While he was going through his, his life of blues or whatever. He definitely knew vampires existed. And if vampires existed in his in Mississippi, that means they exist everywhere. It's not like
he did not become a vampire
was vampires. I mean, well, you don't know what he became. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's called What If.
Now,
you don't know what he became.
Now, what I would give credence to that is that with him knowing that I'm saying it like Southern vampires exist, right? Where when he did have run-ins to the vampires always seem to disappear. That could be because Smoke was looking out for him, like from the sidelines, like he was keeping tabs on him, but he never let him see him. So the two of them could have been looking out for him over the course of his life, right? Where they got
possibility.
I can go with that.
I'm trying to be a little less cliche with it. That's why I came with that.
Well, no, but that works because as society changes, anonymity is almost a necessity. because you can
Right.
get wiped out. Imagine if the especially like let's go to like jump to the 60s with communism and the Cold War and all that going on. Yo, that's a good way. That's a good time period to do, with spies and all this other stuff. And then, then finding out during the Cold War that vampires really exist, and then jumping into the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, yo, they trying to wipe you out because the humanity is not gonna be.
I can imagine how many adventures that they went through. But like I said, the fact that he knows that vampires exist and the fact that he actually has, not say a weapon against them, but he can lure them out with his voice and his music.
With that guitar.
Right. Exactly. Which is why
So
he
could you imagine
restored the guitar. So whether or not you like it or not, Ralph, I still go
could you imagine
with my story.
But this is what Ralph said makes so much sense. The fact that he could draw them out with the guitar, and then Stax is in the background killing them because they're coming for him, and he don't know.
They're gonna definitely come from him.
Could you imagine that?
Come for him. But
wait a minute, think about it. Could you imagine like Preacher Boy makes it to Woodstock, and he's on that stage and he's playing with Jimi Hendrix or somebody, won that guitar because of who he's playing with, and Woodstock was like a days long thing, and all of a sudden the vampires start coming out because it's like their calling song. That guitar is the call sound.
But my only problem with that is how it, you would have to really explain how Stax would have to become the biggest and baddest vampire in the land to be able to stop all vampires from coming at Sammy. So it was just him and Mary, unless he is the dude, the Dracula of this time, he ain't gonna be able to stop all the vampires from coming at Sammy. So that's the only problem I would have with that fashion of the story. In my mind, I wouldn't do it that way. That's all I'm saying. I would do it more so like, really, because I think what happens with him and Mary is a completely different story than what happens with Sammy. Of course, it could all tie in, but to me, knowing that vampires exist, right, and just going about your life, and like you said, if you had Stack kind of protected him, okay, cool, but he never promised to protect him. He just promised to not kill him. He never promised.
But think about that.
He never promised his brother that he would protect Sammy. He only promised him that he'll leave him alone and let him live his life. That's
agree, but it is his cousin. But it is his cousin. You don't want to see nobody doing nothing to you. And it's not like they weren't close cousins. They were close. So even if you saw someone mess with him, you don't want. I mean, I wouldn't want no one mess with my cousin. And if I say, "Well, I promise not to kill him myself," but I'll be goddamn if I'm letting someone do it.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
I get it. I like I said, it all makes sense to a degree. I just wouldn't do it that way. To me, it's a little. To me, that's just not how I would do it. I just think that it's going to be tough for him to stop every vampire from coming after Sammy. Especially, they it's not like they stayed in one little location for 60 years or whatever it was, for all those years. There was traveling and different, things or whatever. Sammy was traveling as a blues player, playing different places. So now you're talking about, so that's their life. So their whole afterlife is following Sammy and protecting him, to me. So I'm just, that's where I would draw the line.
Really, maybe so. Maybe that is their life, because they were granted that gift where he could, and furthermore, since they don't know he's alive, right? Maybe that is their gift, that we have to watch over him. We have to be quote unquote his vampire guardians, his vampire angels, right? Because we can't let nothing happen because he's special. Because they all thought he was special from Jump Street, right?
They all knew he was special.
And
Yeah.
now that you're this evil creature, right? Supposedly you're this evil creature. It's still your family member. You can't, because like he couldn't even really hurt his own, even though he couldn't really kill his brother, right? He couldn't do it. He may have wanted to, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't even kill her because he loved her. So it stands reason that no, I'm not going to kill my cousin, but I'd be damned if I'm letting somebody else put their hands on him. No, hell no.
Yep. I mean, all of that stuff is great speculation. People can, it sparks conversation, and that's the beauty of how he set the writing up. You could go different directions with it, right? You could talk about, you could have a big conversation about it, and Ryan Coogler has all of the opportunity to do any of this stuff and go with it, and it would be good. It wouldn't just be Sinners 2, Sinners 3. It's like its own
Sin too.
separate. It's right. It's its own separate thing, the Sinnerverse, as I call it. So, and there you have it, man.
Kind of like the
my
Conjuring verse.
What?
Kind of like the Conjuring universe. You could do it like
Right,
that.
exactly,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Where exactly where there's films that are not per se the Conjuring 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's other films that connect those things, still under the universe, but it just connects.
I mean, personally, I hope that you leave it as a one and done. I understand if it really makes that kind of money, it's hard to sit there and say, well, I'm just going to keep it as a one and done, because I think there is a wealth of material there that could bring something else. Personally, I hope you don't do it, and for God's sake, we don't need to go into the backstories of everybody before this happened, because at that point you're irrelevant. Don't do that.
I definitely disagree there, especially with Stack and Smoke. That's the one thing I forgot to mention. With Stack and Smoke, that whole Chicago thing, that could just be a gangster film. That don't have to.
Wait. But see that would be different if you're going to take us back with the two of them, and now you're showing them in Prohibition Chicago, and you kept it a gangster movie, no horror element.
No horror element.
Then that's a different story. I'm with that one.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by making films that connect without it necessarily being a direct sequel or prequel. They're different movies, because to me, to qualify for it to be a direct sequel or a prequel, it needs to kind of still follow the elements of the original story. So if it's a gangster film,
I might like to see that one.
And what could make their bonds even tighter is the war that
War One. Yeah, you can show Elizabeth in that film,
but not just that. But showing how either you do one or two things. One, how they're not, how one of them has to go, because in real life, you're not allowed to send. If there's two males in the family, if there's two boys in the family, they both can't be at war at the same time. Back then, they weren't allowed to do that. They weren't allowed to have two family members that were male in the service at the same time. You had to have a surviving male, so to continue the bloodline, whatever the case may be. There was a rule that the military had, so that could make their bond.
That would also be a really good thing. So there you have it. That is the gist of it. Like I said, I'm happy with it either way. The possibilities are great, and it's good conversation. It's good to talk about. That's how you have a good, well-written film, when you can have conversations like what we were talking about. We just spent 5 and some change minutes talking about Sammy, right, and stuff like that. But that's the point. That is the point of good writing. So you know,
And characters have a depth.
Yeah,
characters
you got
have the
good
depth.
character development that could go
Yeah,
somewhere else
yeah,
and it still be just good. And now from what we just said about taking it to like World War I or Chicago, now
yeah.
you give
Oh,
me you taking the characters from a
mm,
horror element and putting them into a war element or a gangster movie, a whole nother
yeah. That would
subculture.
be awesome.
Like
That would be
I would like to
awesome.
see the gangster aspect, them running around Prohibition Chicago with Al Capone. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're the reasons
That's
why
true.
Elliot Ness could Elliot and let's say they did that shit, and it's the two of them going up against Elliot Ness and the Untouchables. Now I'd be like, yo,
Well,
wait,
well, they worked for Al
hold up,
Capone, so
hold up.
you know, I they worked for Al Capone. So what are you gonna do? But yeah, I mean, I think that was it. I want to thank everybody for showed up and talked about the movie and keep checking. Go check the movie again if you haven't seen it. Get out and see it. It's a good film. Uh, I don't think there'll be there's gonna be something you like about the film, even if you don't like the film. So there'll be something about the film that you like. That's how you know it's a good element. But you go in, watch it, explore it, take it in. Shout out to everybody in the chat room that also came through and left some comments. We appreciate you. And I just want to say, originality, it's not dead. It's alive and well and hungry, right? And Sinners has kind of proved that if you put together a well-written story,
And see your
for
chance.
a good structured foundation presented on a grand in a big grand way, we will come watch it. If it's
Yeah,
executed properly, people will come and watch it. It's that plain and simple.
you know what's funny? Because you asked that question when the last time in the original one. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest. The last couple times where it is an original movie that we have talked about in this kind of detail, they're all horror movies. Get Out, you could sit there and say Us,
Yeah.
and
Get
a
Out.
Quiet
Get Out
Place.
is probably the last one. Yeah.
I'm gonna say A Quiet Place, the first A Quiet Place. It
Yeah.
was quite original,
Hmm.
but it was just
And
it.
and
But
and I'll say even another one that wasn't even in the theaters, the one with Sandra Bullock.
Oh yeah,
That thing,
yeah,
that was
Bird
a word of
Box.
mouth. Yeah,
Bird Box.
Bird Box. That was
Yeah,
word of mouth all day long.
Yeah.
Bird
yeah,
Box became so popular because people were doing skits, they were making memes, they were making gifs, they were making all this stuff. It caught on. It was so viral. It was viral
yeah.
stuff. Bird Box. So that's another one. So there's your proof right there. And now Sinners prove that in
That
the
you can that's
theaters,
and bring it into the
yep,
theaters, and
bring
it's
it into the
still
theater.
be
And he wasn't afraid to take a swing. Oh, I put it in IMAX. Now that they've shot it in IMAX, it almost employs you to watch it in IMAX because you're like, yo, I want to get the full experience of it. So they took that swing and they
I
hit it
want
out the park.
I want to see it in 70 millimeter. I want to
Oh
see it in
man, I
70
wish I
millimeter.
could.
Man,
I'm not. Yeah,
I would
there's
love
no
to see it in
theater
70
near me
millimeter.
that does
you
that.
go to
Yeah.
Brooklyn. The what's house in Brooklyn, I think has
Too damn far. It's too damn far.
if you go to
It's too damn
Manhattan,
far.
if you go to Manhattan,
It's either that or you gonna have to wait till you go back to California
Yeah,
and go
but you know
watch
what?
it.
See, the thing is that
that.
even when I go back to California, even when Sinners is dying down and we're really into summer stuff, somebody will still be like
Yeah.
Alamo Draft House will still be. Nah, there's a place out in Las Vegas that a friend of mine's told me about that all they do is play older era movies, but sometimes they play brand new stuff, right? Every month they put out this list of stuff they're going to play for the kind of
Yeah.
month, and I'll be like, damn, They play good stuff. Like a couple of days they were playing They Live. Like I've never seen They Live in a movie theater before.
Yeah.
Right. I would
Nah,
love to see.
that's dope. So
That
with
was
that
cheap.
being said, we'll turn off. We will end the show here. I want to thank everybody for showing up and really putting your insight in. We appreciate your feedback and your engagement. We really appreciate that. Everybody over there at I'm saying over there because I have it on that screen over at Instagram. Um, and I'll say one more time that if you could tell a story, excuse me, if you could tell a story that's bold enough and not just bold enough, but truthful enough or cinematic enough, we'll come out. We'll watch it. Let's hope Hollywood is listening, and hopefully they're paying attention and watching.
Yeah.
So till next time, y'all, you can wait. No, we ended it. We ended the show. Ended the show. Next time, we will catch y'all, and don't forget about us.
Don't you forget about me.